Oh yeah, are you guys hyped for Silverstone or what? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, you guys enjoyed this track? I quite like it actually. I don't like the new sections. I prefer the old Abbey bridge, you know, that old Sector 3 sort of thing. But hey, it is what we got. So what I wanted to go over with you guys today is a pretty basic track guide, alright? Well, for me it's basic. I just want to go over corner by corner, why I choose the line I do, what I'm looking for in each corner, alright? Just basics. But there are 3 key areas that I want to just focus on for a bit longer, and just choosing those key areas because that's where I found my development team, the guys there struggle there the most, or they lose the most amount of time in these areas. So I'm just mentioning it to you guys because if there was any particular points of the track that you were going to spend time working on, it would be these 3, alright? I'm just going to highlight them here. This section over here, Maggots-Becketts, that chapel section, onto the back straight. Guys are losing a ton of time. They're not sure where they need to be in terms of their line, what sort of speed, how to attack the corners. So I'll go over a bit of that. The other corner where guys are losing a lot, funny enough, is on the exit of Vale, or in this section. I'll go over that bit. And this village loop section, it's very tricky. I actually spent a lot of time myself when I was learning the new track, this new section. It's a very difficult line and hard to get, so I'm just going to spend a bit more time about the line that I found through there. And of course, I'll go through the other corners bit by bit as well, but I won't spend as much time. So let's jump straight to it. And just like that, we are in the sim. Alright, I'll be going corner by corner. I'll just talk briefly about a few quick pointers per corner that I look to do. And I will do it from the Pieter Geldenhuys view of unfair advantage, alright? Because you see everything clearer from this view. Okay, so heading into turn 1. I'm trying to go all the way to the left hand side, use as much of the track as possible. Going in, I'm braking just before the 50 meter board. I also choose a flag on the right hand side, just in case you're unsighted behind another car or someone's going to knock down this board during a race. Alright, you just have an alternate braking point. Brake hard, chuck it in, don't trail brake too much, keep the speed up, re-accelerate on the apex curb. Try and avoid this red curb. I try to aim just to the left of it. If you go over this curb, you will die. Unless you got a car that can handle it. Exit, try to not scrub speed at all. Carry as much as you can. Heading into the next section. Maggots-Becketts Chapel. Alright, this sequence of corners is where guys seem to struggle the most. Okay, they're not sure where to position the car, why to position it, where they're positioning it. And it is mostly based on the exit of this corner. So if you try to imagine the exit of the sequence as a normal standard corner, what you would be doing is you'd be keeping all the way to the left to try open up this corner for the exit onto Hanger Straight. All right. So ideally, your car needs to be positioned as left as possible just to open up that corner. But unfortunately, this is a sequence of corners. So what you need to do is balance it out with the speed coming in. So what I usually find is that I'm quickest, the car somewhere in the middle of the corner here. It's opened up quite a bit though, just to get the exit perfect, as much speed as possible. So once you've figured out the exit of this corner, that is the fastest possible way to get out for you. That's when you work backwards and choose how to get through this sequence of corners that you can start the last sequence or the last part of the sequence for the most optimal exit. Okay. So there is no right and wrong way. There's just a fast way and comfortable way for you. So what I normally do is I am off the brakes here. I actually do not even touch the brakes. I'm feathering the throttle through the first part. So that does mean I'm carrying a lot of extra speed into here, and I get it quite tight onto the left-hander. So I don't open up this corner too much. This method works for me because I'm just more comfortable with it. Some guys like to brake slightly here just to get the car more to the right-hand side to open up this corner. So try different ways of getting through there, as long as by the time you get to this part of the sequence, that your car is positioned exactly where you need it to be to exit this corner as fast as humanly possible. That's all that matters, all right? So just tracking back to the line that I actually choose. These curbs are actually quite bumpy. So I start off all the way up to the left, no braking. I aim for my outside tires to be on this curb. These red curbs are quite bumpy. If you hit your inside wheels on there, the car is gonna be completely unsettled. In the Ferrari, it'll probably throw you off. So I try to use my outside wheels on this curb, okay? Braking hard into here, chucking the corner in. I'm also trying to aim for these outside wheels on this curb. I run a bit wide here, slightly. And then throwing this in here, again. Outside wheels on the white curb. Re-acceleration point is just after this, or just before the green curb. I find that's my optimal. And that finally brings us onto the hanger straight. Heading into Stowe, there is quite a nasty bump right on the braking point. So I brake just before the start of the curb over here. Usually you can try and brake at the curb, but this bump is so bad that I try to be a bit tentative going into here, because pitching right on that bump might throw your car completely off. So I'm a bit more tentative on here, just so I can get through alive. Common mistakes is for guys to aim directly for this curb, all right? They get it too tight and they compromise their exit. So what I try to do is try and drag it just to the late apex here before I open up again, back on the throttle. Heading into Vale, I'm braking just before the start of this curb, and I'm braking onto the curb, right? Trying to use as much as possible. Heading into this corner, all I'm thinking about again, sequence of corners, the exit, right? I want to carry as much speed as I can through here, but without compromising the entry of the next part. So sometimes I use second gear or first gear, depends how well I'm doing on the entry and how good the tires are. Try to open up this corner. This curb on the apex has quite a steep drop off. So there's quite a bad bump if you go over the edge of this. So I try to avoid that as much as possible, just so I can get a much smoother exit, so I can get back on the throttle a lot sooner. This is where guys are losing a lot of time, I find. Unusually so, because the whole concept is try to get your exits as early as possible back on the throttle, as soon as possible, right? As soon as I get out of this corner and I see the exit curb, I'm back fully on the throttle and I'm out of there. Guys seem to be struggling to settle the car, or they're worried about getting out onto the exit of this curb. I would say try get the line here correct first, all right? Even if it means taking the first part really slow just to get tighter and open up this corner a bit more, you would rather lose the time over here and then sacrifice the time all the way down the straight, okay? All right, heading to the next sequence of corners. Abbey is really fast. The whole point of this sequence is to try keep your speed up as much as possible. Okay, I'm not on the brakes at all. I just lift off slightly, feather the throttle through here, try to keep the speed up onto this curb to maximize the track as much as possible. I end up going quite far to the left here. It does mean I'm going to struggle to make the left-hander of the sequence, but I just aim to be as tight as possible without getting on the red curbs, which unsettle the car. Which pushes you off for the next sequence of corners, village and loop, all right? It's not that critical because on the brakes, I can aim for the exit of this curb and end up getting to the outside just for my turn-in point. Okay, as you see there. And this is one of the sections where the slow in, fast out rule can be broken. So I am fast in, slow out. All right. The reason for that is the exit of this corner. There is not much distance to the next hairpin. All right. So if I focus on the exit, I'm not really gaining much time before I have to brake for the next corner. So I absolutely bomb this braking zone. Gain as much time as possible, brake deep, brake right to the apex, and try gain as much time as possible. For this next sequence, or the next hairpin here, is where I've struggled the most to get consistent, and the guys are really struggling as well. Just to get the line right, I am going to zoom out a bit. And spend a bit more time talking about this. So let me just go through at half speed. What guys are generally doing is that they're trying to carry the speed through here. The apex at what I would call a normal point, right? Slightly late. But once that happens, you find that you actually coming out the corner in this direction. Okay. And trying to get the car turned, you're not straightened up as much as possible, so you can't get on the throttle as quick as possible. What I do is I try to brake later, almost seeming like I'm going down this escape road before I actually turn in. And my turn-in point is a lot later. Okay. My apex point is a lot later. And I'm trying to aim to get as straight as possible out onto this exit curb, so I'm fully on the throttle. As you can see, I'm fully back on the throttle as I'm getting off this curb. All right. So there's a lot of time to gain here in just your line. So I would say it doesn't matter how slow you're going into here, try and maximize your exit first before starting to push different sort of lines and techniques into this corner. And then finally into Brooklands. Well, I say finally because it is a bit of a sequence. Brooklands and Luffield. Using as much of the track as possible, I'm over onto the right hand side curb. Again, this is a rule that can be broken, the slow in, fast out. There's not much of a distance to the next corner. So you can actually brake quite a bit later and tighten up quite a bit more than you would normally. What my aim here is to cut across this apex, all right, to get as early as I can on the throttle out of here. It's usually just after this curb. So if you concentrate on your exit here, obviously you can't brake the slow in, fast out completely. Guys lose a lot of time by driving around this curb and around this apex. I try to cut it as much as possible. So I gain about 2/10 sometimes on other guys here. So it is worth considering focusing on your exit line here, but you can push your entry a lot tighter than normal because the entry to the next corner, there's not much distance to it, all right? For this corner, I treat it as a double apex. I go out slightly wide. If I go out too wide, you have to slow down too much to cut back in. For me, this kind of works. And my reacceleration point is just between the third to last and second to last red curb is when I'm back on the throttle. And you've got quite a bit of exit curb to work with. You can't push it too much because once you get on the gravel, you're going to be stuffed all the way down the straight. Again, use as much as track as possible. I cut this completely all the way to the Armco and across the finish line for what hopefully would be a lap that would be useful to you guys. So thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry if that was a bit longer than I intended, but I'm really hoping you guys got some usefulness out of this and learned a few extra things. Remember, the whole point of this track is to keep your speed up, but at the same time conserve your front tires. Graining is going to be really bad, especially in the fast corners if you scrub speed through them. So just be mindful of your tires throughout the race, and it's going to be tricky. It's going to be a tricky 75 minutes. Let's see what happens. Good luck and see you then.